Hi, in today's video I'm going to be talking about using ffmpeg to record -mpd links. Now dash is typically used for live streaming, and you'll have come across links with m3u or m3u8, but you also have links that end with a .mpd, which are sort of manifest files for dash live streaming. I'm going to show you an issue that I've come across with ffmpeg. What I'm going to do is take this link here, which is a public domain open source video by Blender, so there's no issues with copyright demonstrating this. And I'm going to switch across to the terminal. And if I run mpv and open this link, what should happen is it's going to kick in and it's going to start playing. Okay, so mpv can play that manifest.mpd link, but if I try and record it with ffmpeg, it's going to fail. So ffmpeg -i, put in the link, -c, copy out.mkv. Okay, here we go. Invalid data when processing input. So what I'm going to do is come across here, and what I've done is downloaded the manifest file to show you what it looks like. So this is a dash manifest, and you may have come across M3Us or M3U8 files that have a list of TS files in them. And basically what the dash manifest is it contains a list of different resolutions that can be played, 1920, 1080, 720, that sort of thing. And it has this sort of syntax where instead of having multiple TS files listed, it has this sort of these variables that kind of get incremented. So if I can come across and try and find, yeah, so you'll see across here we have this sort of, you can see my cursor, this num.m4s. So what you have is these variable placeholders that sort of get incremented instead of the TS files. And you have this sort of segment template down at the bottom that describes how they should all be assembled to create the URLs. So this is the MPD manifest, and the issue is that sometimes ffmpeg can't sort of parse these files to get the URLs out, and so what happens is it actually fails. But as you saw, MPV could actually play it. So what I'm going to do is show you how we can fix that. So what we're going to be doing is using a program called Streamlink, and this was actually a fork of the Live Streamer project that you may have come across, which I think was used in Kodi many years ago. And basically this is a command line application that pipes video streams from various services into a sort of video player such as VLC, MPV, but it can also be used with ffmpeg to actually record the stream. So this isn't like yt-dlp in where it sort of scrapes a website and plays a link. What it does is it has plugins for particular sites that you have to use a username and password for, and once you've sort of set up the plugin, it will allow you to get the URL from that site. But we're not going to be using it to actually scrape pages. What we're going to be doing is actually giving it the MPD file that we've found. So as I said, I was demonstrating it with a open source public domain video, but there are other streaming services that use MPD files for live streaming, and ffmpeg won't be able to record them. Now you can for instance get the MPD file obviously legally. Programs like Kodi can actually save the URL from a streaming service, and you may have seen a program I wrote called Pilfer or Play Record, Record, which is used with Kodi to actually save URLs from different sites and then record them. Now the issue is I could save the URL from Kodi, but I couldn't record it because it was an MPD link. So what I'm going to do is actually show you how we can use Streamlink to actually go through the MPD file and grab a particular resolution and then pass it off to ffmpeg to record. So this is the Streamlink site, and what I'm going to do is actually come across to my .config Streamlink config. So with the Streamlink command line application, what you can do is create a config file in .config Streamlink config, and then you can put in options there. So what I've got here is I've set the player, so player's MPV, and what you can also do is set the default stream, because by default when you run Streamlink and give it a URL, it's not actually going to do anything. What it will do is just print out the various resolutions that are available. And so what we can do in our configuration file is we can specify the default stream we want best, then perhaps 720, so we can have fallbacks set here. So what I'm going to do is come across to the terminal, and as you can see we have the manifest there. So what I'm going to do is run Streamlink and paste in this URL. Copy the URL, single quotes, and if I press return, what it's going to do is it's actually going to open this up with MPV here. So let me just move that here. So what you can see is actually printed out available streams, worst, and then to best. So because we've specified best in our configuration, it's choosing the best resolution for us. So that's Streamlink playing the MPD link with MPV. Now obviously what we want to do is actually record this. Okay, so very simple. First of all, obviously what you want to do with any tool, man, Streamlink, and RTFM. So go through this and actually read the documentation on how this works. As you can see, this is how we can set the fallback streams. These are the various options. We're not going to be using the plugins or anything like that. If I come down here, we've got the player option. So this is how you can specify players on the command line. And you'll see, for instance, we've got here -- player. When we want to put that in our configuration file, typically the convention is when you use an optional command line, it will have a -- but when you put it in your configuration file, you don't put in the -- So we've got the player. I can just quickly switch back to that. So here you can see we've got player equals MPV, whereas in the man page, if you're using it on the command line, you'd run -- player. So looking through these options down here, we've actually got an out option. There's some very interesting options you can use here, which I'll go through. This is what we're after: file output options, -o, and then the file name. So basically, all we need to do is run Streamlink, put in the URL -o, and then output.mpd. And what you'll see is it's found the -- plugin, it's found the stream, and now it's recording. So it's using Streamlink to parse the MPD manifest. It's working out what all the links are, and then it's handing it off to ffmpeg to actually record. So if I Control C this, what we see is we've got, there we go. So as you can see, it's actually recorded the video where, let me delete that again. So if I use ffmpeg -i, put in the link -c, copy, so that's copying the codec, and then output.mkv, see it fails, and that's because it can't properly parse the manifest.mpd file because Sometimes you get sort of formats or specifications and people do their own thing with it, and certain tools then can't record how they've configured that file. So using ffmpeg fails, but if we run Streamlink with the URL -o output, as you can see, is going to work and it's going to start recording. So very simple fix. And to get Streamlink installed, you just run like sudo apt install Streamlink. I think they've got information on here, so installation. Okay, installers, there's Windows binaries you can install it with pip. You've got Mac OS X, Homebrew or pip. You've got Linux BSD, you've got app images. It's on Arch Linux, Debian, Fedora, Gentoo, NetBSD. I'm actually using Nix PKGs to install this, but you can see it's available for pretty much every operating system, even OpenBSD. Got Ubuntu down here. You don't need to actually use a PPA for this, though I think the version that ships with Ubuntu is a lot older than the current version, perhaps. Usually the case. That's the Streamlink application. This is the documentation. This is the GitHub page, and you can see it's basically built on a plugin system that allows support for new service to be easily added. So I think the way this works. Okay, let's just link to YouTube. If we come across to down here, I think third-party applications. These are a list of the plugins, I think. Oh no, here's the plugins. My bad. So these are sort of all the sort of plugins that are supported, and I think the way most of these work is they have a configuration file where you actually have to put in a username and password for this particular service. So it's not like yt-dlp that will scrape a page for you and give you the URL. So for instance, here we got BBC iPlayer, and what you have to do is actually put in your username and password for iPlayer for this to work. So if you're wanting to use this to actually record with iPlayer, you've got to have a username and password, but you don't really. MPV will play most links from the BBC iPlayer site except live links like BBC One, which use a MPD file. So this is why this sort of cropped up, because I was just looking at things. So, for instance, MPV won't play BBC iPlayer live streams, but Kodi will with the BBC iPlayer add-on. And I have a script called Pilfer that can record from Kodi, legal sources obviously, and it basically uses ffmpeg in the background to do the recording, but because ffmpeg has an issue with certain types of MPD files, it doesn't work. So you can save the URL and that will give you the MPD file from Kodi, and then you can use Streamlink on the command line to actually record that MPD. So that was basically how I came about this particular issue. And as I said, these are just some demos of open source things here. This was the one I was using. And again, if I just come across, this is the configuration file for streamlink.config, streamlink config, and you can put in the options here. So again, I've got the player set, the default stream to best or 720, the fallback, and that's going to be used for both streaming and recording. So that if I actually comment this out, okay, if I comment this out, I'll show you what normally happens. And I take this link. So I take this link. Now, if I run Streamlink and give it the URL without specifying the default stream, what you'll see is what it does here is it says available streams 1080p alt 3 worst to best. Okay, so 1080p or best is the best link. So the way you would use this, if you don't specify the default stream, is what you have to do is run Streamlink and then best. Okay, now that's opening in MPV because we've got the player specified there. If I didn't specify a player, it would basically default to trying to use VLC, which I don't have installed in my system. So that's setting the player in the default stream. So you set the default stream, you can just run Streamlink, give it the link, and it's going to choose the best quality and then use the video player you've specified in the config. What it's going to do is basically go through the MPD manifest, grab all the links and hand them off to the video player. But what we want to do is actually stream, we want to record it, because as I showed you, MPV can play that MPD link. See here, if I play that, yeah, you can see that's playing. So you can see here we're getting these ffmpeg bugs, but MPV can play the link, but ffmpeg can't. As I said, ffmpeg -i, oops, copy link, this doesn't work. Okay, that craps out. So let me just remove the output again. So all you need to do after installing Streamlink, setting up the config, Streamlink, put in the URL -o output.mpd. Going to go through the MPD manifest, grab all the links, hand them off to ffmpeg, and actually start recording. So you can see this is recording here. So that's how we can get ffmpeg to record -mpd live streams. Because as I say, the issue is, I think there's something called libxml. I think it's just called libxml, and it's something that's got to be enabled in your build of ffmpeg. So if it's not working, that may be one reason. Or say the other reason is that typically what you get is sometimes custom versions of the MPD manifest that ffmpeg can't understand to actually extract the links and then record them. So say this is the MPD manifest, and basically it specifies a list of different resolutions, and it has this sort of variable syntax where it sort of increments the video chunk name. So instead of putting all the chunk names in this file, it has this sort of syntax where it'll just sort of have these variables that get incremented that then relate to the video chunk. So it's a lot shorter file, and you can't just sort of go through it and go, oh yeah, there's all the links and grab them. So it's not that simple. So that's why we're actually using another tool. So you may be thinking, well, couldn't you just use yt-dlp? So I did try yt-dlp rather on another link, but I haven't tried it on this one. So yt-dlp -o test.mkv. See if it works on this. Yeah, okay, so it is actually working on this particular link. So YouTube yt-dlp can record MPD manifests, but it's just there's some that it can't. I just that I've tried with particular, well-known British broadcasting company live streamings, and it didn't work. But that's why sometimes you need another tool as a fallback. So in this instance, yt-dlp did record the manifest, but I'm telling you that there are different configurations of these manifest files that I found yt-dlp couldn't handle and actually wouldn't record, and it would give me the same error because yt-dlp typically uses ffmpeg in the background. So you can try using yt-dlp to record MPD manifests, but if it fails, then you might want to have a look at Streamlink here. So again, this is Streamlink, this is the GitHub page, and this is the manual. So we've got the installation, we've got all the different OSs you can install this on. We got the command line interface here. So this is how you actually play different services using this Streamlink. So you've got like Twitch here, and as I said, typically if you run Streamlink and just give it the URL without doing anything in your config, what it's going to do is print out the available resolutions. So what you have to do is run Streamlink, give it the URL, and then the resolution you want to record, but you can put that in your configuration file so that you've got less to type. So it'll give you the list here of where the configuration files go on the various operating system, Linux, Mac, Windows. So for Linux and Unix, it's going to be your home directory .config, Streamlink config. Typically on Mac, what you have is like configuration files are actually stored in home, library, application support, Streamlink config. And on the Mac, what you have to do is the library is hidden by default, so you've actually got to go to the Go menu and hold down Option. And when you hold down Option, you'll see the library come up, and you can then select that, and it will be shown in the Finder. And then you can go to Application Support, Streamlink, and put your options in the config. And again, on Windows, this is going to be in App Data, Streamlink config. And I think on Windows, you can go to the search thing and put in like app data like that and just press return. It will open the folder. And this is the syntax here, and this is basically showing you the syntax that you would use in the configuration file for particular players like MPV, VLC. I would recommend using MPV over VLC because MPV has support for user agents, cookies, HTTP headers, user agents, things like that, which VLC doesn't actually support. So there are links that will play with other things but won't work with VLC because it has limited support for HTTP headers. So MPV is a better choice. And these are the plugins. So you've got different plugins that you can use with this for different services, and this is the location of them and where you put in the configuration details. So those are all the plugins, and it's got some really interesting things that you can do. You can actually stream. Let's see, we can come down here, command line usage. What you can actually do is stream this to a URL on your system that can then be picked up by something else. So what you can have is take a stream and not record it, but sort of output. It sort of creates like a little mini server or something that you can connect to from another machine. So on one machine you can do the stream link, and then on your big TV or something you can tune into this computer and it will play the stream. So here we've got the player control, the player options like -p, and then the player name, the arguments, and yeah, we've got this is the section. Make the player read through HTTP instead of standard in. Yeah, player external HTTP. Serve stream data through HTTP without running any player. This is useful to allow devices like smartphones or streaming boxes to watch streams they wouldn't be able to otherwise. And so basically what it does is when you run it with this option, which I haven't tried, I think what it does is actually print out in the terminal the URL that stream can be accessed on the local network. And then on your set-top box or something, you can put in that link and it will play the stream from, the other computer from Streamlink on your set-top box. So work around for things like that. And here's more options that you've got, like you can set the port and things like that. I think player no close, what that does is by default when the stream ends, Streamlink will close the player, but you can prevent that option by using this on the command line of putting player no close in your configuration file. And these are some of the options we're looking at. Basically, to record this, you can just use -o and the file name. So Streamlink, the URL, -o and the file name. And what we've also got here is you've got write data to standard out instead of playing it. So what you can do is run, I think -O or --st out, and then pipe it into something else. What you've also got here is record. And what this does is allows you to record the program at the same time as playing it. So -r, the way this is listed is you've got the short option or the long option. So if you like typing, you can run --record. If you're lazy, you can just run -r and the file name. So you'd run Streamlink, URL, -r and the file name. And obviously you've set your video player up in your configuration file. What it will then do is actually play the video and record it at the same time. And what you can do here is record and pipe to standard out at the same time. So what you can do is actually record the video and pipe the stream out to standard out at the same time. Okay, and so these are some of the other options. This was the default stream option I was talking about, where you can specify the default stream on the command line or in your configuration file, and also specify a fallback using a comma separated list like best 720, 480, that sort of thing, like this. You've got other options for like retrying the streams, retry open. Lots of other options down here you can go through. There's HLS options. There's options for ffmpeg for setting the location of the binary. Also, the output format to use by default is going to be Matroska, and it's going to copy the stream. So that's the most reliable method, because MKV as a container is less susceptible to sort of being corrupted than MP4s. So if you have a MKV file and you're recording, you can just Control-C and it will sort of save the file and play. But sometimes if you do that with an MP4, it's going to cause issues. So these are how you can specify the default output formats that are going to be set with recording. So by default, it's going to be Matroska. It's going to copy the video and audio codecs, and that's the fastest way to do it. And you've also got options here for sort of HTTP, so you can sort of pass in things like cookies, headers, which can be useful if you're trying to work around particular issues recording something. So these are some of the options with Streamlink. Again, here, these are the plugin options, and not really going to use those. I'm just demonstrating this as another tool to have in your toolbox when you're trying to record something, because as I said, ffmpeg has issues recording MPD manifests, because you have a specification for the manifests on how they should be set up, but if there's any custom stuff set in the manifest, then ffmpeg doesn't recognize it and can't record it. So we can use yt-dlp in some cases to record -mpd live streams, but I'm telling you, there are some streams that yt-dlp doesn't work with. So that's why I needed to find another tool that would do the job, and Streamlink's that tool. Basically, all we're doing with it is giving it the manifest file. It's going through the manifest file, finding the best video and audio links, passing them off onto ffmpeg, and then ffmpeg is recording them. So that's basically why I made this video, is because there are some live streams that you can't record with just ffmpeg or other tools, and this also came across when I was using Kodi. I wrote a program called Pilfer that allows you to record from Kodi, but because it uses ffmpeg in the background, what was happening was any streams that I came across that were Dash live streams that used a .mpd extension weren't being recorded by ffmpeg. But I had the URL and yt-dlp wasn't working, so that's why I came across having a look at Streamlink. So again, this is actually a fork of the Live Streamer project, which I think was originally part of a Kodi add-on several years ago. So easy to install, cross-platform, Mac, Windows, Unix, all the versions of Linux. You've got packages for, you can install it with pip. You can also install it with nixpkg, and very easy to use, very easy to set up. I'll put the links to the GitHub page, this documentation here, and also this Dash page here, which has got some MPD examples using sort of open source public domain videos that you can actually test the tools with to make sure stuff will record properly. And again, all you've got to do is, if I come across to my config, okay, .config, Streamlink config, and you can put in the options you want there, which you can get from the manual. And all you've got to do is man Streamlink, and it'll give you all the options you can put in your config file. These are the only ones I've put in for the moment, just for this sort of demo, setting the player, because by default it's going to be set to VLC, and setting the default stream. And we want to do that because otherwise, as I said, what happens is, go back, yeah. Otherwise, what happens is, by default, if you don't have a configuration file and you just run Streamlink with a URL, it's actually just going to print out the available resolutions, and then you have to run Streamlink with the URL and the resolution you want, like best 720p, whatever, which is a bit of a pain. So to stick that default player and default stream option in your configuration file, and then just running Streamlink like that will launch MPV. Give it a second. Okay, so that launches MPV. And to record, again, all we have to do is, let me just remove all this. And so it's very easy to record. Streamlink, URL in single quotes, -o, and the output. Finds the plugin, selects the best stream, hands it off to ffmpeg, and starts recording. So that's how we get ffmpeg to record Dash live streams that use a MPD manifest. And again, let's have a quick look at that manifest file, because it's not going to be something that you're sort of used to seeing. As you may be used to seeing playlists for M3Us, M3U8s, where they just have a list of files in them. Again, this is slightly different in that you have these blocks of code that specify different resolutions, and they have this sort of slightly different syntax so that it avoids putting in multiple links for all the different segments. So typically with Dash, what happens is a video is chopped up into 10-second segments, and it then plays all those segments sequentially one after another. And so if you've had, you can see here we've got like 1920 by 1080 here. I think there was ones for 720 and other sizes somewhere or other. But typically what happens is you then have to have a massive file with hundreds of links in. And what this does is this uses this slightly different syntax where they have this variable or placeholder that sort of gets incremented that is then related to the video segment, and then you've kind of got this segment template down here that actually specifies how the URL is constructed. So you say the issue is you can't just go through this and grab the URLs and stick it into ffmpeg. It requires a bit of reading up on how this is all the format works, and bit of a pain to do it manually. And since I'm a lazy git, I thought it'd just be easier to find a tool that would actually properly go through these MPD manifests and then be able to hand over the links to ffmpeg. So 2 tools you can try using for this. One, you can try using yt-dlp. That doesn't work, then you can use Streamlink. So that's how we can get around the lack of support in ffmpeg for particular configurations of these MPD manifest files that will stop the video being recorded. So dead simple, just install Streamlink, read the documentation, and it should fix that issue if it's something you've come across. So I'll put links to all this under the video and hope that helps. And it was just something that bugged me when trying to record live streams for particular things. And again, this isn't kind of going to help you extract the URL. You're going to need to do that another way. Obviously, you could do something if it's playing in the browser. You could open the network inspector, press F12, go to network, and search for .mpd. And once you've found the MPD link, use Streamlink or yt-dlp, which will then pass it off onto ffmpeg and allow you to record it. And that's all for now. Hope that's helpful and solves the issue that ffmpeg has with these -mpd live stream links. So I'll put all the links under the video and have a quick look. Easy to set up, and it's an easy workaround if it's an issue that crops up for you trying to record live TV, which use dash and MPD links that you can play in a video player, but then you go and try and record it with ffmpeg and it fails and you're a bit baffled as to why that is. This would be the solution that you could try using.